This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We're now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3, but we do what's called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host, BT. Episode 304 of The Pass is here. What is going on? I am your host, BT, and this is where you learn to move with life and not let life move you. I was supposed to have, and I will still have her on the show. I did mention to you all that this episode I would have my guest on Star, and as I always say, life happens. So you can't let life stop what you are good at or what you need to do. So I'm not going to pull or take away from the content that would have been addressed on that show. What I will do instead is use this recording to kind of be I guess you could say a buffer in all that's been going on, because I know I've talked about different things. I've brought up multiple conversations, and I want to. This almost may be a message without giving a message, but just kind of freestyling a little bit. I had a thought when I was on the way that I would pull up week 7's football games and do weekly picks, but I'm like, I don't want to force something if I don't need to. I'd rather just kind of do something a little more relaxed, a little more chill, and this just works for me a lot easier. I was telling, and I might have mentioned this on the last show. I think I did, but I'm going to, and let me let me make sure I'm clear. So, if you have or have not kept up, 302 was we didn't. Do I want to say we did 302? Because I feel like I skipped a number, maybe. But I did do. I had one episode that I was a guest on, and I used the audio from that show for an episode. Yeah, okay, we're caught up. So, all right, 302 was the International Podcast Day pod. Then you saw a episode 1 or a new podcast for my friend's show, Where's My Damn Mail? So that was kind of like a teaser, but also a introduction of a new podcaster into the community. And right behind that, I did upload episode 303, which almost became a 1-hour show without becoming a 1-hour show. I was, talking about what had been going on and what hadn't been going on, which now leads us to 304, which I may have given that podcast a similar title, but I'm using this one in a similar manner as referring to it as Pod on the Go. So I'm going to talk about something a little different, but also a little real. And it's kind of almost one and the same. On one aspect, it's about knowing your worth. And on the other aspect, it's about valuing or utilizing your gifts properly. I am going to share this because it's all about when moments occur, you embrace the moments that you're taught and don't be offended by what is shared and what's being presented to you. Long story less long, I shared a message online because I'm always known. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a vent like nobody's business because that's just who I am. Well, I did do some sharing and I shared a thought and in its moment. And in the immediate response, which you got to be ready because anytime you post or share things, people do read what you share. So you have to, I want to say you have to, but you'll find yourself taken aback by what's shared or what's offered or provided as a response. And if y'all hear the sound in the background, my bad. But, I'm just being me, always OCD and messing around with stuff. But anyway, I got a message to have a direct convo with a friend of mine who has been very transparent with me of life along what I'm considering my journey. And I never realized the extent of this until I really sat and talked with other people on learning that we all have our journey that we're on. And we have to, as I've mentioned before, or as I mentioned, not yesterday, but on the previous show, we really do have to take that time in learning to give ourselves grace in that period of our journey. Because we look at it as when we're traveling and we're moving, we expect to move a certain way. But the reality is we may not move the way that we think we're expected to move. And we got to be good with that and not fight ourselves over how the movement occurs. So my friend who talked to me, I think, and I'm hoping I didn't say this, but I'll bring it up to speed to kind of wrap up this, but also bring some enlightenment to where it put me and what I'm learning to do more. Mainly it was to bring to my attention that where I'm at and what I'm doing does not need to be a quote unquote public service announcement. And to be 100% honest, she's right. And it's not she's right, like I'm agreeing and I'm just bowing down and not, kind of trying to give pushback. But if people, it's a statement that I've heard and it's a statement that's said, but the reality is if you know, you know. So those who know me know these things about me already. If you've been keeping up with the podcast or you kept up with my blogs, I've talked about it before on blogs. I'm not going to mention anything about it during this show. But I just know in encountering that message, it's now teaching me that all information doesn't necessarily have to be shared the moment you have it. And that's, for some of us, that can be very challenging. For me, that's very challenging because by nature and or by default, I'm usually accustomed to, something occurred. Let me share because I'm excited about this occurring. But a lot of times something can occur and it's hey, keep it to yourself and let it move or let it work its magic to come up with the end result of whatever it's meant to be. And for some people, that can be very challenging. I talked about this on the show before, and I've talked about this on a previous episode. I want to say it was episode 303. Overthinking is one of those gifts and curses that I'm really doing my best to not attach myself to as much as I used to, or as much as I normally have. I've paid enormous consequences for overthinking, and it's usually not, it's almost like you have to find that happy medium. The happy medium is overthinking and not making the right decision. I've made the wrong decision and the wrong decision led me down the wrong path. I've overthought something and I missed an opportunity that could have carried me down a better path. So it's finding that happy medium of, okay, let me sit on this and really think about it. Okay, I've thought about it, but the thought process, it wasn't overextended. It was enough. It was thought out enough where I was able to come to a worthwhile solution without it putting a hindrance on my routine as a whole. So that's where I'm at with knowing what gifts you have and knowing how to utilize those gifts. I know I personally can say without a shadow of a doubt that there are two gifts that I personally have that those who directly know me know them for what they are. If you are in need of having a personal conversation about that, I'm open to it. I'm not going to, as I've told a friend of mine, I'm not going to put it on wax. I'm not going to put that into the podcast. I don't need to. I'm not required to. Now, others may think differently and say, hey, if it's what you know and it's what you're good at, you share because it's going to help you with moving and pressing through your journey. Everyone's going to, you're going to see it different ways, but I always have been brought back to the reality of at the end of the day, you got to make what your best decision is for you. So my decision right now is if I feel the need to share, I'll share. But in most cases, those who know me kind of had a general idea of my sharing. Now, that being said, I do have gifts that I do share. Like anyone that knows me knows I'm going to make it my goal to let folks know. I will tell them without a shadow of a doubt that I'm a creative. And when you tell people that you're a creative, that can get lost in translation just a smidge. And the reason why is because being a creative doesn't just limit to what people physically see. I create my blog, I create my podcast, I create my designs and my logos or websites. What's not talked about in that creation is I create the path of where I'm going or what I'm doing. I create my choices of who I associate with or don't associate with. I've found myself, and this might be that podcast that really puts it into perspective, but it's something that when I learned this back in 2018, it became more relevant then. Now this I'm going to unpack and talk about on this show. I may have mentioned it, and if I didn't, I want to talk about it now because it could be on another episode. I just don't remember. But like I said, it's the pot on the go. So I was helping with a election in another part of the state of Virginia. I can say in another part of Virginia. And in doing so, I worked with someone who I realized was a driver. Now, at that time, I didn't understand the reference of drivers and passengers because I was still trying to gain or gather my foundation of being a driver or still looking at myself as a passenger somewhere. Because I kind of was a passenger and I was kind of passive aggressive, or I kind of dealt with stuff when I felt the need. Well, in looking at it then, I realized the person who I was working with was a driver, but she was a driver in need of help. And it's something that even with me, I've had to learn and get myself in the habit of seeing, is that even as a driver and even as a person that goes and does things, there are those points where, because we're all human, we need help. And you have to be open in acknowledging or seeing that for what it's worth. So I was able to realize that I'm the driver who has to be sure to know what I need help with doing. And help sometimes may come from a person that you personally know, or it could be from an anonymous source that you may never, ever see a day in your life. Even better, it can be from a video that you watch online. And I just bring those things into this conversation because it's knowing and sharing that after, at that time, 35 years, I was a driver. I've always been a driver. I've always been the one who needed to take control of my life, put things where I needed them to be, figure out what the next move was, not spend so much time wondering what I was going to do next, just doing it. A friend of mine who's up north, we talked about it the other day. When it's go time, like, y'all don't, like, most of you who know me on a personal level know how I am with podcasting. But those who really don't see the effort and the time that goes into prepping shows or doing all the social media stuff, or if I disconnect from people because I'm working on a podcast. Those things don't, like, when I'm in that mode, I'm just in that mode, and it's either you take it or leave it. And most people in hindsight and just in real theory get it, because that is going to be my time that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And it's no buckling of that. You get put in places to see what you need to do to figure out what's next. Just as a random example, today I shared a song on my page from Her, the artist Her, called Danger, which sampled Herb Alpert and Janet Jackson. I feel like I'm naming the wrong song, but I think it's the right song. I don't remember. Hang on one second, because I don't like to not know stuff or not give the wrong information. Yeah, it's by Herb Alpert. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Janet Jackson is on this song. I might be wrong though, because I don't. And this isn't. And this, again, that's the example. Now, what you just caught in that little moment of the podcast is me overthinking it as I'm thinking about it, because I'm just known for doing that. Let's see. I just want to know okay. Featuring Lisa Keith and Janet Jackson. All right. Yeah, I think Janet does the chorus. But anyway, yeah, so the song Making Love in the Rain was sampled for her song Danger. Well, I shared that song online with people and said, hey, this song is like my new mood. I'm playing this on repeat, loop back, jamming. A lot of my friends commented. One of my friends commented, who I haven't heard from or talked to in a while. And it was able to spark a conversation up between us, because I was and still am, like, to some people, the music plug. When new music drops, or when somebody brings out some nice music that I'm like, hey, you need to check this out, I'm the first person like, hey, check this song out, or put this in your mix, or find a way to get this on somewhere. And lately I've found myself, at first I was unsure of how I would be doing the music push, but now I've finally started to kind of gather a little ground on how to be a better music share. And granted, I don't have every musical platform. I don't have Tidal. I don't have Amazon Music. I don't have Apple Music. But I do have Spotify, and I make it my goal to share music when I get it. So anytime a song comes in, I'm quick to, hey, check out this playlist. Y'all need to jam. Or tomorrow, Lilith Rose, I always promote her playlist on Sundays, her top 11. But it's like this month, I got an October mix that's pretty awesome in my opinion. Like, it was where my mood was this month, and I'm making it my goal, like when I do a new list each month, to not put the same albums or the same artists in each month. And that, that's just me learning and picking it up as I go. But I say all of that to say, connecting with my friend, like former classmate, former schoolmate, like a good friend, always was, pushing me, bigging me up on how much I was into music, how much I did writing. It helped, and it just, showed. She was even talking about in her walking and going through her journey. Everyone on this earth, whether they want to claim it or whether they want to acknowledge it, are on their journey. Wherever their journey is taking them, they're on it. And who comes with you is up to you, and it's up to the universe, and it's up to life. It's going to happen how it's going to happen, and you genuinely have to be okay with it happening. And I think sometimes we want it to happen a certain way, and if it doesn't, we have like this attitude about what happened, or how it worked out, or how it could have been, coulda, shoulda, woulda, maybe woulda loved to be this, that, and the third. And that is where you have to take that time and learning. This is the moment that I need to be the driver, but I need to take guidance. And that can, for some people, become very uncomfortable. For me, it's becoming discomforting, but I'm embracing it a lot better now than I have in my life. So I don't know where I'm going with this pod on the go. Like I said, I was hoping I'd have my friend on. I'm glad she updated me, but I will get her. She's definitely coming on the show. If not, I want to get her on by the end of this year. But if I don't, I do plan to get her on like early 2021. Because this year is probably one of the first years that I've done more interviews or had more people come on to talk about their lives, to talk about what they're doing. Because everybody know, like I said, y'all know what I'm about. Y'all know what I'm doing. Y'all know where I'm at with life. I'm going to say this too, and this is going to probably let a layer down without sharing a lot. It sometimes takes you losing something to gain everything. It sometimes takes you losing something to gain everything. I lost a job. I gained my mind. I lost another job. I gained the ability to design. I lost my car. Now, granted, I got it back, but I lost it. And it brought me to a lowest of lows in just emotions and just feelings. But I came back, and I'm back now with a different eye towards a lot of things. I know I can't half-ass what I'm doing with designing. I've half-assed it for the last 2 years. This shit ain't cutting it. That's just what it is. If I'm gonna just call a spade, it ain't cutting it. And I have to personally be real in realizing that. You have to know what your purpose is. You know what? I'm not even gonna say you have to know what your purpose is. Invest the time you need to learn your purpose or find your purpose. Everyone's purpose exists for them personally. And some of us are gonna get it when we're ready to get it, and others may never see it. I know with me personally, I know what my purpose is. Some of it's surface based. A lot of it is from a higher perspective or from a stronger mentality. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. Like, that's really what it's been about for me in the last, I would almost say 2 months, maybe longer, or not gonna say longer. For nearly the last 2 months, it's been me taking more time to like learn who I am and learn what I'm about. I've talked about it on the show before. Self-assessments are very important. Sometimes a self-assessment may be a physical breakdown of assessing, or an assessment could be you experiencing something and having to take a moment and really look at everything and think it through without fighting yourself about it, which again goes right back to giving yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Pat yourself on the back and say, I did a good job. Take time to be by yourself and enjoy your company. I saw a post today where someone was talking about how, people don't understand how you can go to a restaurant and sit by yourself. Sometimes you are your best company. I can recall this conversation with a friend of mine who's been on the podcast, May. She was in her space of, I'm not sure I could take myself out on a date. And I was like, okay, you can't do it because you don't see yourself doing it, but it's something that you can do. You just have to be put in a position to do it. And sure enough, a couple of months later, I'm up down here at the spot, just hanging out. I was like, oh, so you can do it. You've had the ability to do it. You just needed to get past your personal fear of it. And as I've said on the show multiple times, a lot of things that I share with you all are things that I'm sharing to remind myself. I have to get past my fear of I have to get past my personal blockage of overthinking. I have to get past my fear of design fatigue. You can call it decision fatigue. You can call it any of those factors, but design fatigue is a real thing personally. I have designing ideas in my head, but they don't land on paper because I'm finding every reason not to do them. And by nature and by default, that's going to generate fatigue. That's going to generate exhaust. And that's not fair to those who are looking for me to design things. And that's not fair to me in bringing a source of income towards myself and towards my future. People are always shocked that I'm able to like pick up stuff and just do it. And I'm like, from my perspective, I mean, it's not that much to it. You just do this, and this. And the other people are like, Brian, this is more than that. Like, you really don't see how much goes into it. And a lot of times you don't see it from the inside because you're in the midst of it. You don't see it from the inside because you're in the midst of it. You don't see it from the inside because you're in the midst of it. Being on the other side and really realizing what you do can blow your mind. And I had a walk with my boy, Kazi, Mark. He's been on the show a few times. And he said something, and I always can remember him bringing this up because it was just a reality. Giving him a dry erase board was like a blessing in disguise because I knew what it was going to do. I just didn't expect it to hit like it did, but it did its job. And he started off, hey, I'm do a couple tasks and write out everything that I do in a day. And it was like the first day he did it, if I could find the image, I almost wish I could make that image the background image for this podcast. He literally showed me the first day's worth of stuff that he did. And I was just like, dude, you do a lot of stuff. Like, to you, it's nothing because you're naturally invested in it. And that's fair, that's valid. I can't fight you on that whatsoever. That being said, like, it's definitely a pull on the spirit or on the brain without you knowing it, because like I said, when you're in it, all you can do is just be in it and just do what you know and roll with it. But sometimes on the outside, it's like, bro, I don't see how. Like, I see how, but I don't see how. But I'm gonna close out and just give y'all just a real, a wrap up, and just tell everybody, know your worth, love on yourself, be able and be willing to give yourself grace and give yourself the moment of knowing how far you've come and what you've got to look forward to. One of the tasks that was brought up, and like I said, I did it this morning. I'm going to remember to do it this evening. If you have affirmations, read your affirmations to start and end your day. Like, start off the day strong and end the day even stronger. A friend of mine who has never in her life met me, and I hope I still have it. And even if I don't, if it's not written, I have it. I actually have I can go back and watch the video. But she sent me an inspiration about journaling. And the crazy part is, and I think somewhere I was getting ready to talk about it, but I didn't. I've literally been journaling. Today is day 5 of journaling, which also, on a side note, today is day 24 of Sober October. And I'm gonna be real. I did say for the month of October I was gonna not be drinking sodas and juices. I would say I've been kind of sort of doing it. I had like some days where I drank cups of Fanta and just needed something just to quench my thirst. But in reality, it ain't been like anything drastic. But outside of that, I've been pretty good with it. I know, like I said, I think it was one day I literally had a bottle. I have a bottle, like a drink, in my room, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm about to pour. And it was like I took the top off when I went to get the cup. And I'm not saying I'm not even exaggerating in saying this. I think one of my ancestors stopped me, or I think life stopped me and was like, yo, think about this before you do it. You come this far, don't mess it up. And sure enough, I put the top back on the bottle and put it right back down. And I left it alone. I'm good. Now, does that mean that when this ends that I'm not going to need one or go for one afterward? You already know the vibes. But I'm also it's not as high demanding as it was before I started this month. And I didn't know how it would go. I've been, one of my coworkers, bless her heart, and, I'm thankful for it. She gave me a jug, and like literally at work, I'm just drinking water. I'll get a snack here or there, but nothing like out of pocket or too extreme. So, it's just taking those moments and just valuing what you do and making yourself worthwhile. So know your worth. Like literally, like I was telling somebody, and I told a guy because I knew when I said it, like I've heard people say it, and they'll be like, know your worth, king, know your worth, queen. Really and truly know your worth. Like I've had my friend who her podcast. Matter of fact, she was on the show, Aisha, with Let's Talk About It. She had to give me that deep dive conversation about, bro, y'all are like the high quality. Y'all are the cream of the crop. You have the tools and the knowledge. Most guys out here at y'all age ain't did what y'all did or doing what y'all done. And when I heard that, at the time, even then I was like, okay, whatever. But then you look at it, it takes things having to come back around. And that's where the giving yourself grace and really looking at it as you did a good job. You did that. Now, how many people can say they got 3 degrees? Now, how many people can say that they're studying for a certification? Now, how many people can manage social media and not make it chaotic? Now, how many people can still maintain pressure even with all that's going on with your personal social media page that you can't get access to? Just really learning how to take that time and value for this work. I'm gonna be all over the place with making these points and talking about this, but I really and truly hope that I got through to somebody today. I hope someone got something from this podcast. I hope it's not in vain. I hope you are really true to who you are and love on yourself and make yourself know you are worth more than meets the eye. And don't let anybody take any of your joy or any of your time. Because as I've posted before, like literally take your time with whatever you're doing, but don't waste your time. And if you didn't hear that show, please go back and listen to that. I believe it was 297, but I don't want to mess up. No, I'm sorry, 299. It was 299. 299 was a very touching episode. At the end, I gave a strong passive message about how important it is to take your time, but don't waste your time. The young lady who worked with Chadwick Boseman gave a very touching speech, and it stuck. It still sticks with me to this day. Looking at the mama mentality, yes, that's a big deal, but take your time, but don't waste your time. Like if I were to get a pennant, like because I'm looking at getting a custom pennant. Two ideas that have come up in my head are stop overthinking. I want that on one, and the other one I wanted to say either it's going to say take your time but don't waste your time, or it's going to say TYTBDWYT. And I will know what that means personally. But yeah, that's it, man. I'll keep going because this is like that chill flow podcast where I just wanted to really let off on some true thoughts and let y'all know you are worth more than meets the eye. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And on that note, this is the Past signing out, and we'll be back with another episode next week. Peace. Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for the past. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samson Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, The Pass BT. That's THE Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on The Pass. Until next time, this is your host BT signing out.